Apple just announced all their new products for this year, and they made some changes that no one saw coming. Apple started off the event with this heartwarming ad for Apple Watches and how they've saved people's lives this year, which I thought was a pretty cool way to start the event. Then they gave a shout out to the MacBook, where they just talked about how great the M2 MacBook Air has been this year. And that was it. They didn't announce any new material for the Mac. So we probably won't see any updates to the Mac lineup until next year. The first device that they had an actual update for was the Apple Watch Series 9. So this year it got the S9 chip, which is a good bit more powerful than last year's and adds a little bit better battery life. But the main thing is it has a neural engine now, which means it has way better speech processing, and it means that Siri can be entirely processed on device without having to access the internet. They also improved its ultra-wideband capabilities, so now you can use precision finding to find your phone, just like you can use your phone to find an AirTag. This also means the Series 9 will support name drop, so you can just tap your Apple Watch to another Apple device to share your contact. But probably the biggest change coming to the Apple Watch is double tap. So now on the Series 9, if you just double tap these two fingers, it'll pause and play your music, or answer a phone call, or stop an alarm. So now you don't have to do the whole, use your nose to answer the phone call kind of thing if your hands are full. And the Series 9 also now has a 2000 nit display, which is twice as bright as the Series 8. So looking at your watch in daylight is not a problem. So then Apple went into detail about everything they're doing for the environment, and they announced that the Apple Watch Series 9 is their first ever product that is fully carbon neutral. They even accounted for the amount of carbon produced just by everyone charging their Apple Watches every day. They also announced the Apple Watch Ultra 2, which is made of 95% recycled titanium, which is pretty impressive. And they also gave the Ultra the same 2000 nit display as the Series 9. And they also added an ambient light sensor, so now it has night mode in the dark, just like your phone will in standby. Alright, now let's talk about what you came here for. The iPhone 15 was also announced this year, and it got a lot more features than I was expecting. The first thing they changed was they actually added the dynamic island from the iPhone 14 Pro to the regular 15. So now you'll be able to track all your timers, your flights, your food orders, and just have a lot more glanceable information on the screen. They also completely changed the back glass for the regular 15s. So now they have kind of a matte glass. It's not quite the same as the textured glass that was on the 14 Pro, because they found a way to actually put the color into the glass rather than just putting the color behind a matte piece of glass, which might make clear modifications to the iPhone 15 very interesting. One of the biggest changes that I did not see coming is they added a 48 megapixel camera from the iPhone 14 Pro to the regular 15. Which means now on the regular phone, you'll be able to take a 48 megapixel image or a 24 megapixel binned image with crazy good low light performance. It also means they were able to add 2x optical zoom to the regular iPhone just because of the amount of pixels, which makes the iPhone 15 almost feel like a Pro. They also added what they're calling smart portraits, which is where rather than switching to portrait mode, your phone will automatically detect when you're taking a photo of a person and switch to portrait mode. They also added precision finding to find my friends. So now if you're sharing your location with someone, they can precision find you like an AirTag. They also improved the satellite connectivity for the iPhone 15, so now it's integrated with AAA, so you can get roadside assistance even if you have no service. And the most anticipated change by far to the iPhone 15 is USB-C. So Apple confirmed in their event that they are actually adding USB-C to the entire iPhone lineup. They didn't say anything about the EU regulation that's forcing them to do that, but it's still a win for every iPhone user. Apple's also replacing all of the leather accessories for the iPhone with like this new fine woven material for sustainability reasons, but Apple's leather cases have never been very durable, so this will probably just be a big upgrade. Now for the big one, the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. They decided not to call it the Ultra, probably just for consistency. For the first time since 2020, the Pro iPhones are getting a complete redesign this year. This year, they replaced the pretty heavy stainless steel chassis with a combination of titanium and aluminum. So the Pro iPhones will now be much, much lighter. It also has much smaller bezels than last year, which let them make the phone a little bit smaller without changing the screen size. They also added the replaceable back glass from the regular iPhone 14, which greatly increases their ability to repair the iPhones. The iPhone 15 Pro is the first phone in Apple's history to not have a mute switch. Much like the button on the Apple Watch Ultra, this button can be customized to do whatever you want on the phone, including Siri shortcuts, which means with one click of a button, you can launch straight into an app, or open the camera, or turn on your flashlight. It's pretty sad to see the mute switch go, but the possibilities for the action button are endless. Now, of course, the iPhone 15 Pro also got the USB-C port this year, and with the new A17 Pro processor, they added a new USB controller, which lets that port get up to 10 gigabits per second, which has huge implications for the camera app. A17 Pro also got dedicated ray tracing cores, which will make games and rendering an absolute breeze. The camera also got a massive upgrade this year. It still got a 48 megapixel sensor, but now instead of bending down to 12 megapixels, it bends down to 24. So even in low light mode, you still get a much higher resolution image. And the Pro Max didn't quite get a periscope zoom camera. Apple kind of reinvented the periscope lens. So instead, they gave the iPhone 15 Pro 5 times optical zoom by doing what they call a tetraprism design. Now, this tetraprism accomplishes essentially the same thing as a periscope lens, but rather than the lens itself being sideways, the lens is still on the front, but the tetraprism creates more space between the lens and the sensor to allow for more zoom. They also added 3-axis stabilization to the sensor for that zoom lens, which is a first ever in any smartphone. So with the combination of these higher resolution sensors and the new zoom lenses, the iPhone 15 Pro Max can achieve 7 separate focal lengths of optical zoom, which means you can zoom into the equivalent of 120 millimeters and still have full optical quality. Now, that new processor along with the USB-C port means that you can now record 4K 60 FPS ProRes RAW video onto an external SSD or directly to a Mac, which means along with all those different focal lengths, the Pro iPhones are now almost a viable alternative to a cinema camera in some instances. And the last thing they added to the Pro iPhones is spatial video, which means you can take a 3D video that can be viewed on an Apple Vision Pro. Let's talk price. The majority of the lineup is staying the exact same price as last year. The iPhone 14 is starting at $699, and the 15 is $799, 15 Plus $899, 15 Pro $999, and the 15 Pro Max now starts at $1199. But the Pro Max's minimum storage amount is 256 gigs, so it's the same price as a 14 Pro Max at the same storage size. My guess is that they did that because not many people bought the iPhone 14 Pro Max in 128 gig, so they just eliminated that one entirely. The 15 lineup will be available for pre-order this Friday on September 15th, and it'll be in stores on September 22nd. They did announce one more thing before they ended the event, and that's that iCloud Plus will be getting a 6TB and 12TB plan, which means you can rest easy by giving Apple more money if 2 terabytes is just not enough. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.